All right, so you'll notice we're continuing in our red story, and it's sort of hard to keep track unless you put them side by side with the blue and the red. But as we found with everything from the flood story on in Genesis, we really have two different stories about two different pharaohs, probably, or certainly two different agendas of relationships with Egypt between the red and the blue. And the way it was put together, you'll find that if you read it straight through as it's written, it makes sense. And then if you divide it up and read it just blue to blue and red to red, it makes sense. So we'll be looking at that next week when we get
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks, right? 2 weeks next time, 2 weeks when we get the end of a red and then the end of a blue that came before what we're doing now. But
Mm.
we're in the middle of, and the red one, the Southern Kingdom, the Y or J, the Judah, the YJHVH, Yud Hey, Vav Hey, whatever you want to use for that particular group. That was the one, remember, with the one aspect of the throwing the kids in the river, and then the blue, the Northern Kingdom, was the Shifra Pua, all of the
Hmm.
midwives story. But Moses, in this particular story, killed the taskmaster, then tried to intervene in a Hebrew fight, and the Hebrews knew about the killing of the taskmaster or whatever happened. And so now, Vayishmach Paro et hadavar hazeh, Vayevakesh laharog et Moshe. Vayivrach Moshe mipnei Pharaoh, Vayeshev be'eretz Midyan, Vayeshev al ha'be'er. So Vayishma Paro, Pharaoh heard et hadavar hazeh. He heard this thing, and of course, in the continuation of the previous story, he heard this thing about Moses attacking the taskmaster. Vayevakesh laharog. Vayevakesh is an interesting one because it's a request.
Hmm.
When we
What's
say
the word
please, we
just
say bevakasha,
what's the word just before that?
hazeh, this, hadavar hazeh, this thing. So the this thing was the striking of the taskmaster, and the hiding him in the sand perhaps was also part of what was heard. Whatever Pharaoh heard, Vayevakesh, he requested Laharog to kill Moshe. And it's interesting because I'm sure translations will have it as sought to, as I did, but really, Vayevakesh is requesting, seeking after, Bevakasha, please, which, by the way, doesn't appear in the Torah. Please in the Torah is just na. Elna, God,
Hilda.
please. We don't get a Bevakasha. So, Vayevakesh laharog et Moshe, and he sought or he requested to kill Moshe. And obviously, the word gets out to Moshe that Pharaoh's after him. So, Vayivrach Moshe, Moses flees. And again, we have this very, very terse language. Vayishma, he heard. Vayevakesh, and he decided. And Moshe, Vayivrach, and fled. So it's just a whole series of quick actions. And as I said, we assume somehow Moses got the word that Pharaoh was after him. But that's not in the text.
Hmm.
And so a lot of the stories we think about Moses and his early life, Moses and the taskmaster, Moses and other things are not actually in the Torah. There's
Hmm.
gaps, and then we fill in the gaps by expanding the story. The producer, director, the CGI that they do to make the bush burn later, whatever it is that they do when they filmed this particular Torah text 3,000 years ago.
Right.
But last week,
Acted
didn't
it
he
out.
kill Didn't he kill the taskmaster last week?
Actually, remember, it only said he struck him.
He
He
Oh.
struck. He
struck.
smote.
I see.
He
Well,
hit.
We should bring back the word smote more.
smote.
Yeah, there's some good old words that really are much better than this.
I smote you.
But then, then we do it when we do smite, people are going to think that the past tense is smited.
Hit. Hit.
Smoot.
Smoot.
Hit.
No,
Smoot.
that's the Mass Ave bridge going across the Charles.
Right, that might be bridge. What is meepnei?
So mipnei, because of. So
Oh,
We've had that before.
Vayivrach Moshe, Moses flees mipnei Pharaoh, literally from the face of Pharaoh.
Can I just ask that vayivarech is a chet, and that's what's
Yeah,
making.
but it's not Vayivarach, it's Vayivrach.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yep. Okay. Got it. Yep. And it's
Yes,
also the ending is different.
exactly. And the
Okay. Got
Barach
it. Got
is
it.
fleeing.
Yep.
Barach with
Okay.
a chaf is blessing. Barach with a chet is fleeing.
Got it. Okay.
And of
Mm.
course, since Hebrew was originally oral, and there are places where the rabbis do play with homophones. And so, yeah, Vayivrach, you could repoint as Vayivarech, as if it were a chaf, not a chet. And then we could have, in a sense, we can make a midrash. I don't know if there is one, but we could certainly make a midrash that fled with the blessing of God.
Ah.
So you can play with that, but that's not the text.
Right. Okay.
So Vayivrach Moshe mipnei Pharaoh, literally from the face of Pharaoh, from before Pharaoh.
Mhm.
Or mipnei ends up being because of. Generally, when we're doing something from the face of someone, we're doing it because of something. And here, because of the what the request of Pharaoh's action. Vayeshev be'eretz Midian. So we know he gets to the land of Midian, but it doesn't say he actually fled there. It just says he settled there. So again, how long does it take Moses to flee? Does he make any stops along the way?
Mhm.
Does he stop at the Sinai Hilton? Does he? And we don't get Sinai here.
Yeah.
Where is Midian?
Midian is on the east coast of the Sinai Peninsula,
And where
Oh.
was he before? Related to
Egypt.
this?
So he's in Egypt,
Yeah, but
and he's running all the way. He's in Goshen, maybe. Again, he was in the palace, but he was wandering around Goshen, killing a taskmaster and intervening in the fight of Hebrews. And we don't have in the text any time after the two Hebrews say, "What, you're going to kill us like you did that taskmaster?" So we never have Moses going back to the palace. We have Moses in some unknown location. We had Moses grow up. We had Moses born. Moses put in the little ark in the rushes of the
Mhm.
Nile. Moses taken out of the basket, the boat, the ark by Pharaoh's daughter. Moses given over to by Miriam to Moses's mother to nurse and raise. Moses gets raised, gets bigger, gets returned to Pharaoh's daughter, and then he gets bigger again. And then he wanders around and kills a taskmaster one day and intervenes in the fight of two Hebrews the next day. And then he flees sometime. And now we're not given a time frame. The next day, the same day, 2 years later, when the word gets out, there's no time frame in here.
don't you think that's a lot of facts for something that's how many thousands of years old?
Well, apparently it was enough facts for the people who were telling and hearing the story.
But do we have a sense of where Goshen and Midian were in relation to each other? How
Yes.
far?
So
Yeah.
Goshen is on the east bank of the Nile River, between the Nile and the Sinai Peninsula,
He's bang.
somewhere in the neighborhood of there was a big sign in Goshen when they were building the cities of Pithom and Ramsey. There was a big sign that says future home of the Suez Canal.
Oh, okay. Got it.
And then Midian is on the far side of the Sinai Peninsula, on the Arabian Peninsula, south
Oh,
of Jordan and down in the Arabian Desert.
oh.
Really? Yeah.
So he's fleeing all the way across the Sinai to Midian.
Huh.
So
What?
probably his camel was not supercharged.
I was wondering how long this whole adventure
Yeah.
takes.
Exactly. It had to take him several days to get across the Sinai,
Yeah.
and there's not a lot of provisions along the way.
No.
And he's fleeing. It doesn't say he packed his bags. Doesn't say how he fled, on camel, on horseback, by foot.
Yeah.
And the next thing we know, he's settling down in the land of Midian.
Mm.
And then we're told not just generally in the land of Midian, but specifically Vayeshev al Habe'er. He settled down on the well.
Oh, the well.
And but we don't know what well. I mean, is there only one well in all of Midian? He settled down in the well in Midian Center,
Mm.
but it does make sense that he would settle at a well.
He was parched.
Yes. I mean, that was obviously the tent city for the Midian homeless community. So he settles at the well, not just a well. He settles at the well, literally. And again, Vayeshev means to settle or to dwell or to sit. So I chose to translate it as he settled in Midian and he sat down at a well.
Mhm.
Literally, he dwelt in the land of Midian, and he dwelt on the well. And then now parenthetically, verse 6, Ulechohen Midian, Sheva Banot, Vatavona, Vatidlena, Vatimalena, Et Harchatim, Lahashkot, Tzon Avihen. And again, a lot of this, verb, and now feminine plural. Parenthetically, and to the priest, the Kohen of Midian, there were 7 daughters. And literally it just says, and to priest of Midian, 7 daughters. But the le, to, is also translated into English usually as the possessive. Yesh li, not there is to me, but I have. And so a common translation, the priest of Midian had 7 daughters. And apparently, based on this context, all 7 of them were in charge of the flocks. So the next thing, vatavona, the middle bow is come. So vatavona, they came, they feminine came. Vatidlena, and the root is dala, which means to draw out the water. So they came, Vatidlena, they drew out, Vatimalena, and the Malay is the root, which means fill or
Fill.
fill.
Yeah.
And so they filled, they drew out, and they came, they drew out, they filled the harchatim. Harchatim are troughs, the watering areas for the camels, or for the sheep, rather, for any animals. The watering vessel. And they filled the watering vessel, lahashkot, and
Mhm.
lahashkot is to quench the thirst of. We've had that before. And they did it to quench the thirst of the son avihen, the flock of their father. And again, the plural avihen, their feminine father. So these girls come out. They are the daughters of the head of the priest, the Kohen of Midian, and they come, they draw, they fill the troughs to water. And it actually doesn't say that they did water, they just filled the troughs to water the flock. So they've done all the work. And verse 17, the tension mounts. Vayavo haroim, vayigarshum, vayakom Moshe, vayoshian, vayashk et tzon. So vayavo haroim. And then the male shepherds came. So vayavo, we're back to the masculine language. And they came, and the they is the haroim, the shepherds. So the shepherds came,
Mhm.
vayigarshum, and they chased away. They chased them away. And the vayigarshum is the them that they chased away is not the girls, but the flocks.
So
The flocks,
could you tell me what is what Garshum, the
garash, garash
Garash?
is to chase.
Okay, thank you.
So the male shepherds come and they chase. The girls have just drawn the water, filled the troughs, gathered their flocks to go, and the male shepherds come and they chase. They scoot they chase away the flocks so that they can water their. They can take advantage of the girls and water their own flocks first.
So we're supposed to assume that wasn't very nice?
We're supposed to assume that that was a regular thing.
Hmm.
That the girls got there first, and then the guys would sort of hang back and wait for the girls to do all the work, and then
Nope.
chase the flocks away. And then after they were all done, the girls could bring their flocks back and they could use and they could do it.
Well, except that maybe the shepherds took their water also that they drew up.
Right. Then when the shepherds are done, then they'd have to go and do it again.
Yeah.
So, and we're going to
Men.
get even further within the text, we're going to get the sense that that was, in fact, the regular practice, that the girls had become accustomed to that they didn't stand up to the male flock shepherds. They just did the work, hung back meekly, waited for the male shepherds to finish all their misogynistic macho stuff. And then they took advantage, then they went and did it all over again and did their flocks.
You would think that if the high priest had all girls, he would have taken care of those boys.
Hmm.
One would think, but apparently, I mean, we don't, at this point in verse 17, we don't know if this was a one-time event or a regular event.
Okay.
But
Probably regular.
yeah,
Probably regular.
and we're going to assume that we're going to strengthen that assumption a little bit later. But for now, Moses seems to always be there at the right time to get his righteous indignation flaring up. Moses still hasn't taken his anger management course. And again, the male flock shepherds come and do it. And and remember, Moses is just sitting at the well, dwelling at the well, hanging out in the homeless tent on the side of the well, whatever he's doing, he's not up.
He's
Because the
girl
next thing we
watching.
know is Vayakom Moshe. Moshe got up. So he was just hanging out, watching these girls, I guess, fill the troughs,
Mm.
lazing back. And he sees the male shepherds come. And the first thing that happens, Vayakom Moshe, Moses gets up. So again, the idea of the very quick language here gives us further that sense of urgency, that sense of immediate response. However, we want to paint Moses as a good guy or a hair trigger guy or both or whatever, or Moses is always in the right place at the right time. But what does Moses do? Vayoshian, and he saves them.
Oh,
And Vayoshian, feminine ending, the nun, tells us that it's not the flock that he saves, but the girls.
Mhm.
Then Vayashk et Sonam, and here it's interesting because it's Sonam, not Sonan,
Mm.
but and the Vayashk is the same root as Lahashkot up here. That shk,
Oh, yes.
Vayashk, and he quenched the thirst of, he watered. He watered the flocks
Where are you reading that?
right before 18. Vayashk et Sonam. So after Moses gets up and saves the girls, then he waters the flocks.
Mm.
18. Vatavona el Reuel avihen, vayomer madua miharten bo hayom. So 17, Moses saves them, waters the flocks. What do? They don't even stop to say thank you. They go home. Between 17 and 18, the next thing is Vatavona el Reuel. They came to Reuel, Avihen, their father. So prior to this, he was called the priest of Midian.
Mm-hmm.
Now he has a name, Reuel.
Aruel.
So apparently these 7 girls, their father's name is Reuel. Here at the end of verse 18. So the girls come to Reuel Avihem. They come to Reuel, their father. Reuel is, by the way, going to get a bunch of different names. They're the father of these girls.
Mm.
Reuel actually means shepherd of God,
oh,
God's shepherd. Like here, Roim with an ayin is shepherd. Reu, you can see then, is shepherd, and El is a God name.
Mm.
So his name is the shepherd of God, which might therefore not be his name, but his title,
Mm.
the God shepherd of the
Mm.
people. That would be a Kohen.
Yeah.
And is a Kohen a leader or a servant? The word Kohen actually includes a sense of divine service. So he may not have a lot of power over the other guys, except in the religious realm or in the sacrificing on their behalf, which gives him a certain amount of power. But in any case, does he know that the men are doing? Does he know why the girls take so long to water the flock? We don't get that sense yet. But the girls come home to Uel after being saved by Moshe and ignoring him. Vayomer madua miharten bo hayom. And he said, that is their father, madua, how come? Why? Mihartem, the root maher is to a hurry, to be rapid. So mihartem, why have you hurried bo hayom, coming today? In other words, why did your journey to water the flocks take so much less time than it usually does? Why have you hurried home so quickly? Which becomes again our indicator that this was in fact a regular thing, but it doesn't tell us whether the girls ever reported to their father why it took so long to water the flock. And we don't have any sense that the father ever asked them, why does it take? So depending on how we want to midrash this whole story, how we want to flesh out our play. The priest of Midian, the father of the 7 girls, we could have, if we want, a whole discussion with them prior to this event. The girls take a long time, and dad says, "How come it takes so long to water the flock?" And the girls say, "Well, they don't want to admit what the guys are doing because they think that there could be retribution if the guys get in trouble." So they say, "Well, Dad, we're just weak little girls. It takes us a long time to draw the water and fill the trough." So we have no idea. In any case, we do get the sense here in verse 18 that this is a strange thing for them to come home so quickly from watering the flock. And he says, "Why are you home so quick? Madua miharten bo hayom. Why have you hastened coming today?" And they answer him, Vatomarna ish mitzri hitzilanu miyad haroim v'gan dalo dala lanu vayashk et hatzon. So, 19. Vatomarna, they said feminine. Ish mitzri. Now notice here, he's a Egyptian man. When he was in Egypt, he was a Hebrew man. Now that he's in Egypt, in Midian, he's a Egyptian man.
Mhm.
And this can be used and has been used as sort of a play that Moses is the typical modern Jew. Wherever he is, he's from someplace else. The Jew is a foreigner in every land.
The start of the diaspora.
Yes. Well, and this is a diaspora.
Yeah.
He fled from Egypt, his homeland, to Midian. So they say an Egyptian man, Hitzilanu, Hitzil, saved. Again, another kind of saving, delivered. So delivered us miyad haroim, from the hand of the shepherds. This might indicate, if we want, that therefore the girls told dad, dad knew, and dad either didn't do anything about it or couldn't do anything about it. But the girls say, "We got home quick because this Egyptian guy saved us from the hand of the shepherds." And not only did he save us from the hand of the shepherds, but here the dalo dala, we had that way back here with what the girls were doing, tidlena, that's the drawing out of the water. So the girls have drawn the water, filled the troughs. The shepherds have come and chased the flocks away. Moses has come and chased the shepherds away. And Moses refills the trough, dalo dala. And again, that's the emphatic form of Hebrew, whenever we get the double verb. And it's always an infinitive followed by an active. So dalo, in filling, he filled. So he really filled. Lanu, to us, he filled for us those troughs. Vayashk, and he watered et hatzon. He quenched the thirst of the flock. And notice again, the girls don't say, "And we were so happy, we thanked him. That's why it took us a little longer." But rather, again, we get this sense that the girl said, "And he filled it, and we came home."
Mhm.
And what does dad say? Verse 20, Vayomer el benotav. So he says to his daughters, Vayomer el benotav, Va'ayo lama ze azavten et ha'ish kir'en la lo vayochal lachem. End of a verse, end of a phrase, end of a sentence. That's lachem, not lechem. verse 20, Vayomer el benotav. So he says to his daughters, Va'ayo. Aye is where. Ayo is where is he? So we could have it in emphatic, Va'ayo, where is he? Or we could have a more gentle father of the seven girls. Nu, where is he?
Mhm.
But it's a very, again, quick word. Vayomer el benotav, Va'ayo. Lama ze azavtem. Lama is another word for why. So madua, sort of a formal, how come? Lama, a little bit more of an informal, familiar, why? Lama ze azavtem. Why this you left him? Azav is to leave. Azav 10. So why did you leave him? And the him is the ish, the man. So why did you leave the man? What, you didn't say thank you? You didn't invite him over? You didn't do anything? You just left him? All right, girls. Kir en lo. And again, kir en is feminine plural imperative. Kir en lo, call to him. So I don't know if they were supposed to get on to the loudspeaker, supposed to whether he wasn't really that far away, and they just had to shout out into the desert, "Hey, Egyptian guy!" But again, he says to them, "Call to him, call to him, vayochal lachem, and he will eat bread." In other words, invite him over for a snack.
What does lo mean in this context?
To him,
Oh, to him.
always means to him,
Well, how do you say no?
with an
Lo.
aleph.
Lo, but it's also lo.
Yes, but with an aleph. Kirenlo is not call out no, it's call to him. With an aleph, it would be kirenlo or don't call. Leave him sitting there by the well. Some homeless vagabond, Egyptian castaway. Call to him and he will eat bread. And here again, bread is often in Torah symbolic of provisions or
Mhm.
food or a meal. 21. Vayoel Moshe lashevet et ha'ish vayiten et tzipora bito lemoshe. Again, between verse 20 and 21, we don't get any action. But apparently they did it because Vayoel is contented. So Vayoel Moshe, Moses was contented, lashevet, to sit, to dwell. Here, et is not the direct object, but with the man, that is, with the priest, with this father of the seven girls. And no time frame again. He comes, apparently for verse 20, for a snack. So he comes for a meal and he moves in. And he was content to hang out there, to dwell there, to sit there, to stay there with the man. Vayiten et Zipporah, and he, that is most likely dad, gave Zipporah, Bito, his daughter, Limoshe, to Moshe. Pretty quick.
Oh, she
But,
was the oldest. She had to be married off first.
well, we don't know that.
What is veto?
We don't, his daughter, Bat
Oh, right.
Bito, his daughter. We
Mhm.
don't get Zipporah Hatzair, Zipporah the elder, or Zipporah HaBechorah, the Zipporah the firstborn. By the way, this is not unusual, certainly in that time frame, and at least 50 years ago was not unusual for Bedouin tribes in the Sinai area. And the reason I know that is when I was in Israel in 73, 74, Israel had the Sinai, and Israel had a resort on Sharm el Sheikh.
Mhm.
And we actually visited Sharm el-Sheikh as part of one of our school field trips. And there was a Bedouin chieftain dwelling in his tent area in Sharm el-Sheikh at the time. And one of my roommates, one of my colleagues, accepted an invitation from the chieftain to come into his tent to receive some hospitality, a la Avram, with the three travelers.
Huh.
Huh.
Was he offered a wife?
And according to this particular friend, according to David, uh, the chieftain offered him some food, offered him some respite, some rest, some hospitality, and they were only in there for about an hour. And the chieftain said, "How would you like my daughter?" And he said, "Well, that's a nice offer. No, thank you." And apparently the guy said, "Well, I'll give you two sheep and a camel along with her." And I don't know if this Bedouin said, "Oh, rich American, I can get one of my daughters taken care of," or we don't know his motivation, but apparently he offered his daughter pretty quickly. So Moses didn't have to stay very long before Ruel said, "I got seven daughters. I can at least get rid of one of them. Let some other guy be responsible for her." So he gives Moshe, and apparently, if he gives, not just offered, but gives, then Moses said, "Great, I'll take one." We don't know if their dad offered him three or four. Said, "Here, I got a few," and Moses said, "Look, Zipporah's fine. I'll just take her." But Moses gets Zipporah, and that's the end of the story for now. Next
Okay.
time, we will finish chapter 2, which is very quick. And as typical from 21 to 22 is going to be a lot more than 2 weeks, because at the end of 21 this week, Moses gets Zipporah. In 2 weeks, at the beginning of the next section, Vateled Ben, and in 2 weeks, she's going to have a son. If
Wow. They worked fast back then.
Well, if we were reading it without our break, it would have been the next second. So you're going to finish that part of the Moses story. Vateled ben Vaikra et Shemo Gershom ki amar ger hayiti be'eretz nochriah. Then verse 23. Vayamim harabim hahem vayamot melech Mitzrayim. And we haven't finished a verse, but we have finished a story. Now, if you read the blue and you really want to see how it fits, not in the way it was put together, but in the way it was originally transmitted, you have to go back several verses or several weeks ago, several sections back to, we're in 4, you have to go back to 1 and 2 to find out what came right before this. And again, if you read the blue from the previous section, skip all the red and read immediately here, you will find that it makes sense.
Mm.
So it doesn't have to follow after the death of the king of Egypt. It has to follow after something else, which was the previous, which we'll look at in 2 weeks. Vayeanchu v'nei Yisrael min ha'avodah vayiz'aku v'ta'al shav'atam el ha'elohim min ha'avodah. 24. Vayishma Elohim et na'akatam vayizkor Elohim et brito et Avraham et Yitzchak ve'et Yaakov. Verse 25. Vayar Elohim et bnei Yisrael vayeda Elohim. That will be the end of chapter 2. So more time for less reading practice. But in those last few verses are some nice big mouthful words.
Mouthful? I like that word.
And it's like reading for today had a lot of